Welcome back everyone to another PogChamps recap video. This one is going to be a little bit unique, at least the introduction is, because I'd like to introduce you to Michelle Khare. Michelle is a fantastic content creator, and she's got this YouTube channel where she hosts a show called Challenge Accepted. She basically takes some time to learn a skill like being a gamer in Fortnite or a lifeguard or firefighter, Olympic figure skater, and then she has an ultimate challenge. So Michelle hit me up in early January talking about chess, and we came up with this plan to train her for PogChamps. Now, we thought the champions bracket might be a little bit difficult, but the constellation bracket was right there for the taking. Since then, she's played over 200 rapid games, she's climbed up to 670, and in this video, I'm going to show you how she played a match against MrBeast, the king of YouTube, although I understand that it can also be PewDiePie, and then against the queen of Twitch, Pokimane. She's been coached by myself, she's been coached by Anna Kramlich, she's been coached by Anna Ruloff, she's got a great team, she's really taking her chess seriously, and I just wanted to honor that. You know, she's been putting in a lot of work, so let's see how it pays off. We're going to look at it from Michelle's perspective. MrBeast begins with this kind of queen's pawn and two knights, bishop f5, g3, e6. Michelle's got the principles down pretty good for someone that learned chess about a month and a half ago, right? Now, MrBeast plays a3, we get takes, castles, rook to b1, b6. And here I really want to get into the beginner mindset. I mean, with all these 4 games that I covered today, I want to teach you how to adapt to, the position as it changes, how to evaluate certain things as the middle game progresses, and we're going to have 4 games to look at. So, b6, white plays h3, a move that doesn't do too much. Black plays c5, great move, expanding with the pawns. White plays bishop to g5, pinning the knight to the queen. Could be a little bit annoying, because if you move your queen, we're going to open up our king. Michelle plays knight d7, excellent move. Now, normally the knight goes to the middle, but in this case you put it on d7 to reinforce this knight. So now you can move the queen because you don't have to worry about your king opening up. Beast goes g4, she plays bishop e4, not a bad move. Kind of maintaining that pressure there. Bishop takes f6, now the whole reason we put the knight there, Beast plays g5. Now she takes on f3. Excuse me. Not something that's super necessary. I mean, you could obviously jump in and then in this way, or you can bring the knight back to d7, but she takes, he takes back, and now she replaces the knight in the middle of the board with knight to e4. Sorry, she replaces the bishop in the middle of the board with the knight. We get c4, but the knight was threatening to take this and this. And this move, a very common mistake for beginners, y'all think a piece wants to take you, but it's not about that. The piece just wanted to go to that square. Be very careful. It would have been better for Beast here to just get rid of the knight all in all, but he allows the infiltration, and now knight takes and queen takes b1. So at this point, black is up what's known as an exchange, which is a rook for a bishop. You've got to open up the board. At the same time, you need to safeguard your king, and you need to create lines and files for your rooks. She plays a5, not a great move. At this point, you're looking at what you can capture. She can take this. She also could theoretically take this, but of course that opens up this. Although I gotta tell you, it's not even that bad, because on the other side of the board is a rook. The board is a big place, beginners, alright? Y'all be blundering stuff all over the place because of the long diagonals and the straightaways, but board is a big place, so I don't like a5. I mean, every move you gotta be asking yourself, can I take something? And the answer is yes. There are 2 free things in this position. Beast takes, she takes back. Now Beast take this, she takes back. But this helps black, because in the scheme of things, right, you're opening up the rook, gonna get in there with the queen. There's 2 ways to win a position like this. Number 1, mobilize your queen and rooks together, go checkmate. Number 2, trade the queen, trade the rook. Rook versus bishop endgame, you win 9 times out of 10. Because that one time, you hung your rook and then all of your pawns and threw your computer out the window. So, h4, now she plays rook b8, excellent, queen there, and now d4, great move. Just pushing the pawn, it's no longer in danger. But Beast is belligerent, he's just pushing, not a bad move, trying to get black to open up. She takes, actually she takes the right way. More often than not, you're supposed to take like this, but in this case, this is a better move because you activate your rook, right? But Beast is belligerent, he's trying to break through on that side of the board, and she plays queen b6. I'm not a huge fan of this move. You do have to address the fact that Beast is trying to open up the lines. So what should you do? You can take, as long as you don't, you get safety, or push. And then push. And now the file is shut down and you hide on the dark square. You're able to hide away from this bishop because the bishop can't see you. But if the bishop, let's say, ever were to successfully land there, I understand you can take it, but let's say the bishop was like this, right? Your king has no legal moves. You got to protect the diagonal. That's what you got to do. When your king's got no legal moves like this, put your queen on f6, and the enemy queen will never get to you. It's about finding those dark squared weaknesses if you're being dominated by a light squared bishop. I don't like the fact that she allowed herself to be opened up, but here she played a fantastic move, an infiltrating move, but she wasn't able to coordinate the queen with the pawn. A lot of beginners miss that, like a square. They don't want to get too close. They're afraid of blundering. But the pawn is protecting, king c1. Excuse me, now queen a1, here and here. Just don't even think about it. Just take it. Just take it. You probably can mate here. If I'm being honest, there probably is some way to checkmate, but it's not so easy, okay? Especially at 700. But she makes a big mistake. She takes back. She doesn't look at checks. And when she takes, all of this is covered. She's very lucky. And Beast is very creative. A very nice counterplay idea there from Beast, desperately throwing the pawns at the enemy king to open up the lines. You notice that? For the cost of pawns, you open up the lines. Now Michelle goes here, takes. Black is still winning, but it can be difficult to adapt to this situation because, well, you're not like completely crushing anymore. You've lost your rook for the bishop. And then she takes. And that's a no-no. Your queen is dominant here. Keep the queen on. But, of course, the queen could come out. So, you know, you gotta monitor the enemy queen mobilizing. You're very lucky the queen's very passive. So she takes. Now, we're in a rook endgame, which, you know, with beginners with a minute on the clock, it's not gonna be perfect. With anybody with a minute on the clock, it's not gonna be perfect. In particular, you know, getting into a rook endgame, you start panicking. You're like, oh my god, am I gonna lose? So, what's important in a rook endgame? Activity and targeting weaknesses and mobilizing your pawns. Those three things, right? So, she plays c4, he goes f4, she goes d3. No. The endgame's not about pushing the pawns. This is not a bad move, but she now needs to go for the weaknesses. The best move here for black, you don't even think. Bam. It's like, so what? King blocks. Yes, bam. Bring the king and the rook. We go in for the pawn. We get rid of this pawn. We get back, right? Because the pawn is covering. But of course, there's going to be mistakes. So she loses a pawn. Well, actually, she doesn't lose a pawn. She pushes the pawn. She loses that pawn, but she pushes this. And that prevents the king from escaping off the back rank. That's actually a very nice move. And there's some back rank checkmate ideas. But Beast plays rook d1, okay? She plays rook g8. That's not a very active square. The best move here for black, rook b2, rook a2. Get in there, but again, have to notice this. Or rook h8 and try to go in this way. You know why she played this move? Because she came up with the following idea. You see what she's trying to do? Instant replay. She trades the pawn. She puts the rook behind the pawn a little bit early, but she's got the right idea that she's going to get out of the way. And by the way, look at Beast just going with the rook to take the pawn, and then bam, and then bam, and then, oh, sorry, I didn't realize that he got checked. It's not a very bam moment, but now it's bam because she's pushing. At this point, black is 3 squares away from making a queen. If you are playing with white, you need to get to that square faster than the pawn. How do you do that? How do you get to the back rank the fastest? Rook h5, g3, rook h1, g2, rook g1. Still, at that point, black would move the king. That is going to be the only way to get rid of the rook on g1. And this king can get there, but not fast enough, because you're going to go this way. And the craziest thing is about this is that if the king defends, you have check. So white and then you win the rook because the king can't guard the rook anymore. So white needs to sack the rook for the pawn and then try to survive with 3 pawns versus a king, which is doable, especially if they walk together. Not if you just throw them all down. Stop pushing your pawns, beginners, unless they're with the rook and supported and everything. What happens in this game is crazy. So MrBeast allows the pawn to go an extra square. Now if he plays rook h5, g2, he can't stop it because the pawn takes. But he has rook b5, and he gets there, but he has to sack. Now he pushes. The problem is his pawns are too close. His pawns are too close to back here. If they were further advanced, it'd be good. And if this king was in the corner, but the king's too close, and Michelle gets 1 pawn, and then she brings the king, the most important thing, and the rook cuts the king off. That's what that's called. So we're learning a lot of different concepts in this one game. But she gets the win. MrBeast resigns in this position. I don't know if he should have. I would say that you have to make your opponent prove they can mate with king and rook. But he's a good sport. I would say that otherwise, no. I mean, Maybe up until like 1500. Make them play this out, especially with a minute on the clock. You never know what they will do. You never know if this is going to be their next move, right? But he resigns. We go to the second game. In the second game, this game is totally different. Michelle mouse slips on move 3. She's a London player. She plays e4. This game is going to be a game which inspires you to not resign, again, just like last game, and how to overcome a bad opening mishap. You guys ask me this a lot, so pay attention. Pawn takes, she plays c3. She's down a pawn, all right? She is not used to being in territory where she's down a pawn, and she plays f3, which is a very good move because pawn takes, knight takes. But MrBeast came up to play. He came to the board this game ready to fight. This man doesn't wait a second and then attacks her bishop and then plays e3, f5 attacking the knight, and he spots the only targetable weakness and plays queen to d6. Like, this man in between games had like a energy drink or something. He finds the direct line of assault, wins the pawn, and wins the knight. He's crushing, all because of a mouse slip. But so what? That was like move 3, right? He's still playing out of his mind. Michelle at this point goes, all right. So here's what I got to do. I got to stabilize the position. There could have been an en passant here, but she stabilizes the position and she goes, wait a second. I think MrBeast is trying to go long. So I'm going to start an attack there. I know I can pawn storm. Desperate times call for desperate measures. MrBeast plays b6, already a step in the wrong direction. It's not a losing move, but don't push pawns where you are being attacked unless you can blockade. This is not a blockade. This is something known as a hook. It's something that white is going to use against you. Because at this point, if one of these pawns came forward, they're not offering a trade. But now you are offering a trade. And MrBeast at this point has to glue it shut. He's got to play like b5. You say, how does that glue it shut? There's a queen on the other side of the board. And then a6. Oh, wrong arrow. a6. Close it. Lock it. But he takes. She takes. Now the B file opens. All pawn trades change the position somehow. He plays 8. He plays this move. And she goes, wait a minute. I have a check. That forces the king out. And then I have another check. Queen a6. Rook b1. And mate. And it's mate. And I understand the differences in the two games. That first game was 9 minutes long. This game's like, I don't know, 3. But that is how you recover from an opening. You just consolidate your position. You look at what they're doing. Oh, they're trying to go long? Okay, well, I'm down. I'm probably losing. Guys, it's like being down, you know, in the 5th round of a 5-round fight. You've lost the first 4 rounds. I wouldn't know. I'm not getting in a fight with nobody. You've seen me. I can barely curl 5 pounds. Okay, that's a little bit of a stretch. But I'm not getting in a fight with anybody. But you just got to go for the knockout. Just go. What's the worst that can happen? You lose? Okay. And you were losing like move 7. So you're going to lose. Go for it. And she does a great job. He makes a misstep. And she realizes that the opening of the B file is going to prove decisive. And she wins. Michelle Khare defeats MrBeast, knocks him out, and moves on to the matchup against arguably the favorite of the consolation bracket. Poki, before she descended from the champions bracket, defeated Rubius 2-0. And Rubius is a 900 plus rated player. Poki has been doing a lot of work on her chess. Apparently, y'all been telling me she got a second account. I don't know. I didn't ask. But she's been doing a ton of work as well. And both of these ladies have the same opening with white and probably with black. So that was going to make it even tougher. So what I told Michelle before this game or this match was, yo, don't overthink. Be up on the clock because she's very methodical. She's very solid. Have fun. That's the most important thing. A lot of you guys, first of all, a lot of you don't study. You just play. But she studies too much. She tries to handle it like an academic exam. And that backfires. That's the problem, is that it backfires. You can't know everything before you go in. So we're going to follow the first game. From Michelle's perspective, we get d4, d5. And what do you know? We have a London system. Now, Michelle plays an expert anti-London. She plays c5, knight c6. No more of this knight in front of c-pawn garbage. Stop doing that. And then she plays, oh, voila, queen b6, attacking the b2 pawn. The problem is, she's got a very well-prepared opponent, who plays queen to c2 and doesn't blunder the pawn. So now we just have a game of chess. Poki plays knight e5. Now at this point, people playing with black, y'all should realize knight h5 is a very common idea here, to just get the bishop. Can't go anywhere, just get that bishop, right? Get the two bishops, the bishop pair. But Michelle plays castles, Poki plays castles, and now black has to finish their development. Black plays bishop to d6. Not a bad move, trying to apply some pressure here. If knight takes knight, queen has to take to guard the bishop from this bishop. But that's it. So we get knight d2, and now pawn takes d4. Michelle says, I've had enough. Now, what do you take back with when you play white in the London system when they take on d4 with the c pawn? It's the e pawn. C, E, because you need the E file open, you need the pawns to be like thorns on the queen side. The second that pawn transfer happens, Michelle goes, checks, captures, attacks. I don't have any checks. The only captures that I have are here, neither of them are good. Bam! Let me punish this mistake, and then let me trade the knight for the bishop. Now that bishop is no longer targeting my king ever, so I'm going to finish developing by taking on b2, which is a very dangerous move, because at this point, white can play a move like rook b1, and it looks terrifying because you have to find queen a3 only move, and you are defended. It's a very bold move. Michelle probably should still go for knight for the bishop, or try to find a way to develop this piece, but she plays very boldly, and we get that. Takes, knight f3, and rook d8. Okay, she's got to play b6 and bishop a6. Poki plays bishop g5. Michelle brings the bishop back. a4. Bishop d7, finishing developing, but forgetting what's hanging, and Poki just doesn't make a mistake. So, rook straight away, you want to develop your piece? First of all, attack the bishop. Not just because you want to just do it for no reason, but because your king can always have a getaway off the back rank. Then, you move on, b6, get the bishop out, right? a6, b5, not in this case, but in some cases, right? So what happens is she blunders the pawn, and now Poki's coming in from 1 direction, 2 direction, and 3 direction, right? So king f8, and now you want to snap, but black could snap, removing the defender, and Poki just instant. Bishop f6, knight takes, and then just trade. Now Poki's up a knight. I wish she makes a safe square for her king. Okay, I don't hate that move. a5, f4, beautiful. Now there's a getaway. Rook d7. I wouldn't take, I would reinforce here, all right? She goes back, also not bad, maintaining the pressure. Michelle e5, at this point you're down a knight, you've got to either just go with the rooks on the straightaway, right down the c file, or break in the center, try to make something happen. She plays e5, right? She's losing, but she immediately goes for the open file. That's the only thing you can do when you're losing. Like, you know, a lot of us in chess don't treat losing like people treat losing in a sport. Like in a basketball game, if a team is down 8, do we just turn off the TV? Well, yeah, if you're a horrible person. But if there's like 10 minutes left in the game, anything can happen. Like it's 8 points, you know? It's a couple of shots. I mean, like 3 potentially to be exact. But like in chess, we're like, oh, down a knight. All right, next game. No, just keep fighting. Where are you in a rush to? We're all in quarantine. Where are you going to go? All right, you going to go to your couch like from, you know, like stop. So Michelle activates her rook and hits both pawns and survives long enough that Poki plays rook e5 check. Yeah, just hung the rook. It happens. She went like 20-something moves, almost 30 moves, playing a really, really good game. In fact, this was move 31. That's why blunders happen. And Michelle plays f6. Now, at this point, they're both about a minute on the clock. She takes on d4. She herself blunders a rook. And now it's the same lesson as last game. Rook behind the pawn. What's the best move for white, ladies and gentlemen? If you said king f2, I'm about to smack you. Clearly, it's a5. And now black needs to come back and maintain vision on this pawn. But you're very passive. While you have to be deflected, I'm going to just march my king up the board. At some point, I'm going to infiltrate with my rook. I'll give you my pawn. Or I'm going to bring my king right here. The king was a bishop. You know, it would just take the rook in one move. But the king is not a bishop, ladies and gentlemen. I'm also recording this at 1 in the morning, so, you know, I'm a little bit delusional. But what happens in the game is Poki plays rook e1, and now Michelle's super clutch. Just because your king is in check doesn't mean you have to move your king. What dummy taught you that? Rook block, and now the knight can't take the rook because the knight has to guard this one. So we get knight takes rook, and rook takes, and she goes rook a1. This is when you know that as a beginner you've ascended. You know what's next. in a crazy position. You got to go get that pawn. And now we got a laser beam situation. Rook takes g4. Poki resigns. Again, 2 lessons in this video. No need to resign. No need. There's still a way black can blunder. Tonight, just keep it close. You're fine. White can always play h3 here and then blunder a fork, but, you know, imagine black goes here. Uh-oh, and now white is winning. Don't resign. I mean, I get resigning out of respect, but there's no need to resign. Especially, no need, okay? So now Michelle has won 3 straight games. All right? Game 4. She's got to win or draw this game, and she makes it now to the Champions bracket, Constellation Bracket Finals. d4, e6. We get a London and bishop d6. She knows what's known as the rock back technique, bringing the bishop back to g3. Castles, knight f3, Poki learns from her opponent. I mean, I'm not sure if she had this prepared prior, but perhaps she did. But c5, castles, cd4. And now Michelle plays a move I'm not a huge fan of. You got to take back with the pawn here. You need to maintain your central presence. She plays knight d4. And now Poki plays knight c6, and black is doing very well. c3, bishop takes, pawn takes, and e5. You cannot let your opponent get 2 pawns in the center in the London. You need pawn presence in the center. All right, but we get knight c6, bc6. It's not the end of the world. Like, black is a little bit better. White plays queen b3, e4. Poki shuts down the bishop and finishes developing. Rook e1, bishop takes, rook takes, okay? Now, what's next for black? So first of all, rook b8 is always a very good move, right? Hits the queen, but Poki finds the top engine choice, which is what, my friends? This is how you should visualize attacking in chess. If I were to get 4 moves in a row, what would I do in this position? You're not allowed to capture anything, okay? So you can't just be like, huh. Oh, that would be bad. You can't do that. You can't capture anything. Maximize your position. She plays knight g4. Why? Because given another chance, she'll go here, and then she'll go here, and then she'll go here. That is how you make a plan. Now, advanced plans also take into account your opponent's ideas. But as a beginner, you need to think about, if I got a few moves in a row here, what would I do? What would I do with all my pieces, right? f3 is a great move, because you got to get rid of that knight now. So we get rook b8. Look at that. Danger levels. Danger levels. Queen a3, pawn takes, pawn takes. Pawn takes is definitely a good move, because you got to open up white's position here with the weaknesses. Poki plays knight back to e5, f4, and now I wish she would have stuck around. But she plays knight c4, which I don't dislike. She teams up the rook and the queen and the knight down this way. Michelle takes, Poki plays rook e8, and now knight a3. Great move. Very timely move. You gotta trade the knight. Knight takes b2. Okay, free pawn. Rook b1 attacks the knight, and now knight back to c4. So if knight takes, remember the straightaway from last game? Rook sees all the way down. It happens again. It's a blind spot. You've got to just snap take, snap take, snap take, snap take, snap take, snap take, rook endgame once again, just like we had before. That would have been the best. But Michelle blunders, and Poki blunders right back. They both miss the faraway rook straightaway. And that happens. And now Michelle's like, oh my god, whoa, I'm not blundering that again. And here Poki plays rook takes b2, rook b2, and queen to e7. Now, what black should have done here, don't even think about it. Just go attack the king. And then when the king moves up, make a fort for your king. Because if you want to ever do something like rook takes e3, in this case, rook e3 would lose a rook. But what I'm saying is move the rook off the back rank. You have back rank mate. So just play like h5. Just play h5. So your king could always go here. Why h5, not h6? Because you want to go here maybe. Target the king. Poki offers a trade of queens. And here Michelle was like, wait, if I take, and she takes, and I go here, the whole back rank is empty. And that's exactly what she did. Rook e8, rook e8. And Michelle Khare defeats Pokimane and MrBeast 2-0 in the 4-0 combined in the same day. And she moves on to the Constellation Bracket Finals. I don't know why I just paused there. I didn't say a word. So, huge congratulations to her. Huge congratulations to Michelle. She's been working hard. She's been documenting on-stream lessons with so many different creators. She's been documenting off-stream just grinding sessions, you know, like playing, which will come out in her video that she posts, challenge accepted. Definitely go check out that series, by the way. A lot of great content there. which is much better than chess, in my opinion. Like, becoming a figure skater or a firefighter, things that are like a lot cooler than just pieces on a square board. But listen, a lot of respect for all these participants. First of all, to MrBeast, who claimed that he's going to work with Hikaru on his redemption arc and tried to win PogChamps 4. To Poki for all the hard work, learning chess just after Christmas. Michelle learning chess 10 days after that. And these people are putting in that work, and they're about 700 and only getting better. Yes, they've worked with a lot of coaches, but lessons one-on-one with someone like myself are not very different than watching my videos. If you work intensely on your chess, don't get frustrated, because ultimately, the truth is that, like, it's chess, but in the big picture, it doesn't matter too much. Life is long, okay? So take your knocks when you lose. Don't get frustrated. Go back to the drawing board, improve, and you will see progress as time goes on. I will see you for the final PogChamps recap about 12 hours after this one is uploaded.